Breaking news. I repeat, breaking news to start off this program. I am getting word of an occurrence that requests our completely undivided attention, as if the reports are correct, we have stumbled upon what might be the next big thing in Minecraft speedrunning. This is a rapidly developing story, but so far we know a few key details that might help convey to you, the audience, how important this all might end up being. Firstly, this story is about a brand new category of speedrun that already appears to be taking the Minecraft community by storm, as in its first 15 days of existence it has accumulated 175 submissions according to speedrun.com, making it not only one of the fastest growing Minecraft speedruns, but among the site's most active speedruns period. Second, the competition at the top of this mysterious category is exceedingly intense, with the world record trading hands a grand total of 7 times, bringing down the record by more than 2 minutes in the process, which leads me to the third key detail. There's a familiar name sitting atop the leaderboard. Fruit Berries, the lime-tinted event extraordinaire and movement pro, first took the record on the 8th, bested himself 2 days later for the hell of it, then swiftly took his record back less than 4 days after losing the crown, all amidst a complete deluge of run submissions. What sort of challenge, what set of circumstances could enable such a relentless effort from the game's best players like this? Well, let's open up Fruit's run so we can see what this speedrun is even about. The very first thing we see Fruitberries do before his timer even starts is punch in a world seed number, so this particular run is on a set seed. Think of this as Minecraft's equivalent of an individual level. And like a level in a game you've played countless times, we know that he knows where everything in the speedrun is, so it's just us doing the guesswork now. This hand-selected world is quite structure-heavy, and Fruit makes use of it by dropping into the central desert temple and getting everything its catacomb can provide him. Upon his return to the surface, he goes out of his way to decimate some cacti, and what the cacti is for is half-answered when he puts each piece individually into a dedicated furnace. I think I know what this run may be about now. Do you? If not, Fruit's happy to provide the last half of his 64-step proof by conjuring up some shears, combining his newly amalgamated green dye with some white dye for lime dye, then staging a beeline towards the tree line of the savannah. His immediate dyeing, then shearing of some unsuspecting sheep tells us he's here for lime wool, so that must be the whole point of this speedrun. But how much lime wool are we talking about, and why that particular number? Well, in leaderboard placing we know how this run stacks up, but in item placing, also a stack. We just witnessed the world record speedrun for the set seed stack of lime wool category. You're probably wondering the same thing as me. How did we get to a place where hundreds of folks agreed collectively to speedrun, filling up a full inventory space with a specific wool color? It's not the fact that the lime wool resembles Fruit's Minecraft skin, at least for everyone not named Fruitberries, but the answer is actually quite simple so long as we take a bit of a step back. Before anyone had even conceived of such a run, chatters in a discussion thread were thinking about new arbitrary categories they could create to claim their very own records. Speedrun moderator BadSap said, "Hey, I know just the category," and strung those 4 iconic words together for the first time with seemingly no rhyme or reason behind them. But then he did it again, then once more after that, and all of a sudden it was a social contagion. Lime wool induced hysteria. This wasn't the apex of the movement, but it was certainly the genesis. A handful of runners took up BadSap's pleas and actually ran the category, though quite sparingly. It wouldn't be until the following February when the category got its big break. Moderators had proposed a side event they called Category Extension of the Month, and in brainstorming its first edition, BadSap stepped up to the plate and said, "Hey, I know just the category." It's word of mouth up to that point, and BadSap's position gave the idea credence, and it was greenlit. From there, an official leaderboard was created on speedrun.com, announcements were made, and the rest is history. So to answer the question of how we got to this point, the category presented a fun challenge to people, found itself to be accessible for those people to try out, which resulted in them repeating the good word of the challenge until it was as ubiquitous as the main speedruns people play, leaving all of that to be combined into an official home with the speedrun's very own leaderboard. The Minecraft category extensions page on speedrun.com has all sorts of niche speedruns like the one we just witnessed. It's not a prerequisite for fostering a popular speedrun, as there's nothing stopping someone from documenting and archiving runs themselves, but this separate entity, a dedicated leaderboard coupled with independent communities geared solely towards the challenge at hand, that's the backbone for many speedruns built on top of that foundation. This answers how speedruns like this can come about and gain complete and total acclaim, but in no way does it address the why. Like, why push so hard for arbitrary challenges like this in the first place? Why speedrun a random Minecraft category at all? Truth be told, I don't think we'll find that answer in Stack of Lime Wool. We arrived here too late and too in the middle of the madness to make any sense of it. We need to be alongside a speedrun, from its creation, to its peak, to its inevitable conclusion. But how do we go about that? Well, naturally, we have to dig deep. We have to find something truly groundbreaking, yet underground, something that we can dig up some dirt on, and... oh, I think we found just the speedrun. The origin of what we're about to take part in has two phases to it. Phase 1 starts in late 2020, when a moderator named Wills proposed a speedrun with the goal of clearing every breakable block in a 16x16 stretch of land. These are what Minecraft calls chunks, basically a way for the game to split the world up into manageable sections. It's possible to manipulate every single block in every single one of these sections, except, unless you want to use glitches, bedrock. So a challenge of speedily mining out all of a chunk's contents from its topsoil to its unbreakable floor, and he called it Mine-a-Chunk. Folks were actually quite antagonistic to this category being a real thing people could submit runs to, but much like in the previous story, they didn't note that the 4 boxes for propelling the run into the limelight had already been checked. Competitors lined up, streamers turned the entire thing into a spectacle, and there it remains a staple, a Minecraft category extension speedrun in the purest sense. Not the thing people think of when they imagine speedrunning Minecraft, but a challenge that makes sense regardless. Fantastic, a few folks thought. How can we make this challenge even more ridiculous? Well, folks, that's the second phase of this story. The scene you're looking at is not some goofy terrain generation, but instead a world type that can be created within Minecraft known as the Superflat preset. It can only generate 2 structures, the village and the stronghold, and aside from that, it's a barren grassy landscape for as far as the eye can see, only being interrupted by an abundance of slimes which contrast the grass by being a slightly more obnoxious shade of green. There are a surprising amount of neat things that can be done within the world limitations laid forth, but it takes an exceptionally bored mind to think it's a good idea to mine out a slice of this dull world type, and an even crueler one to turn it into a timed challenge. One of the cool quirks in traditional Mine-a-Chunk is its variety of blocks and world generation. Here's a chunk I picked completely randomly so we could gather some numbers, and upon slicing it up we're presented with a complete buffet of blocks and features that make this chunk a unique experience to dig out completely. There's actual strategy here, such as choosing a chunk that's already partially carved out by natural features, or using a completely unique approach to make digging out those remaining blocks a quicker endeavor. Contrast that with the average super flat chunk, and yeah, there's not as much going on here. Each stretch of land outside of those 2 structures I mentioned provide a virtually identical challenge. Why would someone even want to attempt such a challenge in the first place? We've danced around the question of why speedrun anything a bunch up to this point, but in seeing this speedrun out from start to finish, I anticipate that we'll answer it a good 3 times over. Let's start with answer 1. Why speedrun? Why speedrun anything at all? Because, well, why the hell not? K-Toss's approach to the challenge follows that maxim like how forced laughter often follows a bad dad joke. Another runner had laid forth their interest in trying to speedrun beating the Ender Dragon in Superflat, and K-Toss, yes, that's his username in this Discord and we'll get into all of that in just a bit, had an unintentional convergence of ideas befall him. The Mine-a-Chunk speedrun, but in Superflats. Oh, why the hell not? I asked K-Toss why he decided to become the first person to try this speedrun, and his reply was simply, I just thought it would be funny. And to his credit, the run to follow is, in fact, remarkably funny. The footage feels like it's out of one of those how to survive the first night videos from eons ago, but make no mistake, this is a run from barely 3 years ago. K-Toss treks towards the village to gather materials that he can turn into shovels. The blacksmith buildings have chests that can provide him minerals like iron, and he encounters plenty, so 4 iron shovels it is. The boring part of the run can now commence, and I don't mean boring as in monotonously dull, well maybe I do a little, but of actually digging out the chunk. He soon realizes he'll need a few more shovels to fully excavate the chunk, and as he returns to the plot of land he broke ground on, this world type's complete and utter villain rears its ugly head to remind K-Toss of who's really in charge here. This, of course, is our unworthy adversary, the slime, and if we're gonna have to get used to these plopping and hopping gremlins, let's at the very least get to know them in the process. So, what brings you folks here? Spawn rates going haywire in the Super Flat World preset. Cool. What do you folks do for fun? Jump, hop, and torment. How lovely. Katos has knowingly or unknowingly signed up for a full-on slime onslaught. Try as he might, but the slimes only stand to get in his way. Even the tiniest ones, which do no damage, are blocking every other one of his shovel swings. At one point, he just seemingly gives up and lets a medium slime take him out so he can come back on full health. He doesn't let this deter him, and among the sea of baby slimes, he sees bedrock and proceeds to clear out the very last block with a final time of 12 minutes and 39 seconds. The reaction to this run was surprisingly positive. This is a stark contrast to the initial reception of Minechunk, where, as we remember, the folks of the Java Speedrunning Discord server saw all that the run entailed on paper and figured it wouldn't be worth all the effort to be its own category extension. For the sake of Minechunk Superflat, the discussion this time is not taking place in the Java Speedrunning server. Java Unofficial Category Extensions, or JUICE, specializes in forced speedrun challenges and an even more forced attempt at a catchy acronym. Like, think about it for a second. Java Unofficial Category Extensions? You can't sneak that by me. Its speedrun.com page exists a level below the main category extensions hub, not lower in a level of hell way, but more of a nobody's thought of these speedruns so this is where they go, I may as well way. Anything considered excessively quirky or borderline meme category material is discussed at length at both Juice's speedrun.com page and Discord server. Stuff like constructing a fish tank the fastest, building a mock-up of the portal from the Aether mod, getting every type of bucket in the game, and mention of a bunch of other categories that are too weird even for here. You might dislike this vast array of seemingly meaningless speedruns, and if so, it looks like you're in good company. Curryway, a former main category record holder, that's the one where you kill the dragon to see the end credits, has expressed at length his disdain for category extension runs. During a livestream, someone asked him point blank, why don't you try the category extension runs? To which Curry immediately responded,
because they suck, and I don't care about getting the world record in obtain a diamond, but punch 2 sheep first and trade with a villager %.
Pretty funny category idea, right? This is the server folks go to discuss making it real. They are, in a way, this saga's main characters, sitting at an outer balance between comedy and pure performance art. When they do something, it's safe to assume that they did it both with careful consideration in mind, but also, like Katos affirmed, because they thought it was funny. This less than delicate balance explains Katos's username. One person's message in the Juice Discord that was, well, meaningless gave way to parody, in-joking, more parody, then oh no, we have a snowball rolling downhill so fast that in the blink of an eye the entire server has seen its own French Revolution. If there's anything these folks like to do, it's look at the real oddballs in the room and say, hey, this thing is odd, let's make it the biggest deal we possibly can. This is the exact sentiment that they put into Minechunk Superflat. Well, it would be eventually. At the onset, there just weren't too many takers for the category. It says something that in the company of categories where literally all the player does is break a bee nest or name a music disc world so they can claim they got a world record, this run floundered in getting any traction. That would soon change. The silly runs being posted in the Juice Discord had already produced incredible commentary. Moderator Franco227 was rather quick to call the run boring after his first attempt in February, but look who came back 2 months later to spend 15 minutes breaking 768 grass and dirt with his bare fist. Look who's laughing now. Strategy finders like Danico came in soon after, vying to find world seeds devoid of nearby chunks that spawn slimes. You'll see a lot of interplay between runs done using known set seeds and newly generated random seeds. In other categories, it's normally a huge disadvantage to not know what's in a world seed before speedrunning it, but in Superflat, there's not much more that you need to know. As long as you have the materials to mine a chunk, you've figured out just about everything. The ingredients to make this category come to life are at the cusp of synergizing. All we really need now is this category's own BadSap type, the kind of runner whose sole focus is pushing the category as far as they possibly can through word of mouth or their own speedruns. By virtue of just one person taking this category seriously, the world will be introduced to the beauty of Minechunk Superflat and all that it has to offer, and I think that person just showed up at the Juice Discord server. Super Gamer was drawn to Minechunk Superflat because it's free from the shackles of randomness that plague other Minecraft speedruns. Eliminating aspects of luck, his mechanical skill and ability to avoid slimes are the only thing standing in the way of him pushing the envelope for the category. On August 4th, he posted a chunk clear time of 6 minutes and 28 seconds, nearly halving K-Toss's initial run and giving himself a blueprint to work on. Danico helped this effort by using a village seed finding program to scout this seed, which has a blacksmith containing all the resources needed to mine a chunk and then some, standardizing Super Gamer's path even more. Danico got a quick record with the seed, no video. Super Gamer beat it 3 times over, still no video, but shortly after he bested his own time by 9 seconds, and was finally ready to show what he had been cooking up. Straight from the get-go, Super Gamer initiates his run a lot faster than K-Toss because he only had to loot 1 blacksmith instead of 2. That on its own brings him a bit ahead in pacing, but it's his next tactic that completely leaves that old run in the dust. Threatened by the prospect of slimes, Super Gamer simply digs down 2 blocks and starts mining the dirt first. The big slimes never recover from this workaround. He'll still have to face them at the end of the run, but in the cover of the dirt and guided by the chunk borders display, Super Gamer is able to make unfettered time gains in the security of his cubby. Even when he opens up the chunk to the surface, the slimes don't want anything to do with him, which allows him to easily finish this ground relocation process in under 6 minutes. SG's run raised a bit of concern about the dynamics of mine a chunk already approaching some sort of limit. The proximity to the blacksmith could use some work, sure, and the crafting isn't perfect, but what about the mining process could even be improved? Super Gamer covered his bases in that department, down to even the final second, as the gold shovels he used save, individually, 0.05 seconds per grass block broken. We're down to shaving off fractions of seconds already. Oh boy. Strategy developers naturally took a gander at that impending limitation and subsequently scoured about for workarounds. As always, strat finding in any discipline requires a touch of lateral thinking to put things together, and the literal blank canvas we have gave folks like Danico a chance to dig real deep into the bag of tricks. No matter what speedrunner competition you find yourself in, there's always a land of unconventional strategies hidden somewhere in its far reaches. If you can't find it, you must not be looking hard enough. Way out here, for every great idea that enters the world, there's always at minimum a few nothing burgers to go along with it. Take our first concept of interest, respawn anchor strats. These blocks set player spawn points in the nether, but when loaded and right-clicked in the overworld produce explosive results. Oh, we're about to go ballistic on this chunk, aren't we? But of course, there's a caveat. Getting just one of these bad boys requires a stupid long detour. You have to build a nether portal, wait for it to light naturally, then play slot machine with piglins just to get them to barter crying obsidian. It's a fun and technically viable idea, but just slightly too out there. How about something different? Okay, now you're just being ridiculous. Like a kid hoping the thin coating of snow on the grass and sidewalks is enough to cancel school, these folks cannot be convinced away from their overly optimistic ideas. Even if they did, they'd just come up with a new line of thought anyways. Some of the ideas presented are rather interesting, and some others, we'll get back to them. For the first time in this category's history, run attempts are finally pouring in, and this is thanks to a huge development. Mine a Chunk officially has its own speedrun.com page. Thanks a bunch, Franco. It really only took a tiny bit of effort to platform this category, and just like that, all of the ingredients had come together. This dinky little niche speedrun is finally ready for its day in the sun. February to July in its entirety saw just 4 attempts that I could find, but August, even though this thing was only made official 23 days in, is going to completely obliterate that figure. This month had everything: random seed runs, no structure runs, trio runs, and yes, a few big ticket world records. We'll keep our scope narrowed to the structures category for now, as another prominent extensions runner named Flawless Diamond saw a few flaws in Super Gamer's run. His attempt at righting those wrongs is, well, effectively identical, plus or minus 3 golden shovels. Yeah, the run in its current state isn't exactly eye candy, but we're getting there. Flawless Diamond's record was certainly no test of mastery, and even he admitted that with only 2 attempts put in, this run likely wouldn't stand for long. The surprising part isn't that this run was beaten almost instantly, but that the next few records to follow were all done on a random seed. Take a look at this vast array of flatland. Can you spot the lucky seed? If you can't, Unsortiertes can. They're using what's called a reset wall, basically a grid of instances paused as soon as the world loads. This lets Unsort pick the most appealing of the previews to load into, and it doesn't take them long to enter a world that's miles ahead of seeds used in records past, so much so that they start digging out the chunk 13 seconds faster than Flawless Diamond did. They might not have the gold shovels for the grass split, but this setup is just too good, enough for Unsort to claim not 1 record, not 2, not 3, actually just 3 records back to back to back. Seeing that the so-called best seed was completely beat, Flawless Diamond joined the random seed train with his own record, only to be bested by Unsort shortly after. If there were any concerns of the shovel route being close to optimized with Super Gamer's 551, 14 seconds of shaved time ought to bring that discussion back to the forefront. Danico's prized world is quite handily outclassed, so maybe there is some room for a new and even more optimized set seed, or maybe some new strategies. Does anyone else hear that noise? Oh, hi! The little pocket above blacksmiths is just dark enough to spawn hostile mobs like creepers, and while they might not be respawn anchors or the wither, these guys are a much more viable prospect. The idea is simple: reset a bunch until you hear footsteps above a blacksmith, open up the joint, and have yourself a merry chunk destruction. In the best case scenario, a single creeper can clear upwards of 80 or 90 blocks in one go, but have a cluster of 4 spawn, and you're talking about half of the chunk going the same way as the bottom of a desert temple during my first Minecraft playthrough. Move over, shovel route, cause there's a new game in town. The seeds of change also mean the return of a familiar sight, as a focus on set seeds intend to bring some certainty to a challenge that's now plagued with the uncertainty of creeper spawns. This is where I've got to express my one gripe with this era of the category, because why, after all the promise Unsort and Co showed with objectively superior seeds that were found by random which could easily serve as the best choice for blacksmith resetting, are we back to this old dog of a seed? Excessive village distance be damned, the creeper strategy can bring this seed some sort of newfound redemption. Who's ready to gamble? Franco? Well, so much for being bored with the category, but alright. He's soon going to learn that creepers are not a silver bullet for a record. Sometimes they'll blow up in suboptimal spots. Other times you'll get a creeper into a pit and set off the explosion perfectly, but only after a great deal of trouble that eats up any time saves. Then there's the elusive third time. 2 creepers drop from the blacksmith, they behave long enough to blow up on target, and from there the whole thing is gravy, a final time of 5 minutes and 28 seconds. A run which brings a definite end to the reign of random seed runs in Minor Chunk Superflat. In one way or another, all speedruns, and all games for that matter, develop tech like this over time. No matter how short or simplistic they are, they too will see explosive solutions, though maybe not as tied to luck as creeper strats are. Most of the time, as Franco expressed, there'd be no creepers, or sometimes if he did get one, it had henchmen by its side, skeletons or zombies or god forbid baby zombies. That's no fun, and it's likely what ran through the heads of a bunch of runners who stuck with random seeds or other stuff in the category. Even Super Gamer, this run's main ambassador, took a look and said, yeah, I'm not gonna reset for that. Anyways, here's Super Gamer 20 days later, resetting for that. It's just something about the potential upswing. Like, imagine if you found a slot machine within your Minecraft world, you'd probably give it a spin at least once, right? Well, that first spin must have been the catalyst for Super Gamer, because his mentality quickly shifted from not gonna reset for that to, yeah, a world record might be nice. He nearly instantly sees a run out to completion just 3 seconds off the record, followed up by a 5:12 with 2 creepers. Where the 16-second time cut come from? To this day, nobody knows. Anyone claiming to know is lying. The creeper sequence in this run is mighty impressive on Super Gamer's part. I mean, just check out how daring this explosion dodge is. That difference alone saves him a few seconds, surely. It's just a fun run all around. It's got fun strategies within a fun challenge. Don't you guys all agree? Hey, where'd everybody run off to? Guys? Maybe Minor Chunk Superflat's day in the sun is already up. Maybe, just maybe, digging out a 16x16x3 patch of bare ground, even with its newly added flavor, can never be more than a forgettable accessory to the main speedruns people actually care about. It is the green bean casserole of Minecraft speedrunning. What's a down period without a little bit of fun, huh? It's not like it can be action and records every step of the way. Like a dwindling sun past the autumn equinox, the trend month over month is for less runs and therefore fewer run submissions, except for December 2022. This blip is a byproduct of the category existing just barely in the speedrunning scene's collective consciousness, which from an optimist perspective means hope for the future. A group of folks in the Pace Pals Discord were speedrunning Killing the Dragon starting in super flat. When they got seeds they didn't like, they dug dirt instead, but to keep up the good vibes, the other folks in the call started giving pace updates, but like, really leaning into it. For a brief second, in a teeny tiny subset of the community, Minachunk Superflat was the most important thing there is. It had a seat at the big kids table, on par with random seed glitchless runs and stack of cobblestone, because of course. Alas, those goofs quickly moved on from the category, and here we are again, a bunch of ducks waiting for some breadcrumbs. But silly sequences like that serve as a good reminder of what just a few folks can do to bring light back into this seemingly dumpster-bound category. Here, the nonsensical has the habit of transforming into something spectacular, and legends can be made from a land characterized by nothing but dirt and dust. Sometimes it just takes one person to realize that the walls and ceiling that surround them are just decoration, and that there's something truly special waiting for them if they just exit the room altogether. It's April 27th, 2023. In the Minachunk Superflat chat which sits forgotten about, a runner named Nicholas breaks the silence. His shout into the void is his own take on the Minachunk Superflat speedrun, and it's the first thing in quite a while to generate any sort of buzz. Let's see for ourselves what the big idea is. Looks like we've got a new world seed on our hands. Lead the way for us, Nicholas. That's a good bit of wood you're getting, for a bunch of shovels I guess. Hey Nicholas, you know that there's not even a blacksmith in this village, right? Oh, where's he gone off to now? Nicholas? Nicholas? Hey, where you... Where could he possibly be heading off to? What could be worth this sort of hurry? Never in a million years could I have predicted that Nicholas would have gone off and done that. I hadn't even thought of the possibility. I checked the rules too. All they say is that you have to mine every block in a chunk except for bedrock. Nicholas, having placed and broken one block over the void, did that. He saw a gap in the rules and in the earth and took advantage. It's possibly the most triumphant statement one could ever make in this dingy speedrun subset. Give me one vaguely worded rule and a portal to another dimension 2,000 blocks away, and I'll make use of both. This is the basis of the second reason. Why do people speedrun? Well, they do it to push limits. Nicholas took a play from the old book of forbidden strategies we have tucked away in the corner. It's obvious that better shovels will break dirt and grass faster, and it's a no-brainer that protecting yourself from slimes prevents slimes from hurting you. But a glitched completed end portal in a dimension full of already cleared chunks? It's outlandish in how he ventured to literal outer lands and far-fetched in how far he had to go to fetch out a record from the void. Nicholas knew the run would get a reaction out of the community. He also knew that the moderators would take a look at his run and make a decision. The entire route is by the books legal, but the precedent it sets sees a future for the category that's somehow more lifeless and tiresome than it already is. So the moderators decided. The main category is focused on the overworld, first and foremost. Runs using the end dimension would be their own subset. As soon as the run was put into this different category, Nicholas declared his mission of changing the rules as a grand success. He knew the flimsy wording of the rules wouldn't hold up when brought to light. The conversation this whole thing generated was well worth the price of admission, but you know who saw this commotion as a golden opportunity? Supergamer. On April 29th, not even a full 2 days later, those same onlookers saw him post in the Juice Discord a 428. Faster run to the stronghold, you say nope, same set seed from eons ago, slightly different route, 4 creepers, skeleton. It's almost more petty of a run than what Mikolas did. Oh, you traveled to another dimension to set a record? Well, I'll just stay here being comfortable. Maybe I'll get the first sub 430 while I'm at it. It's especially spectacular if you consider that Supergamer could have done this run at just about any other time in the last, I don't know, 8 months or so. But instead, he maximized on the creeper route at the precise time that this speedrun, for the first time in almost a year, is also maximizing on its own potential. Mikolas' run brought Minechunk Superflat, literally and figuratively, into a new dimension of gameplay. Never has the category been so thoroughly explored and appreciated. In his own domain, the End Dimension subset got its own perfectionist treatment, with folks taming uber-fast horses to bolt to the stronghold. Elsewhere, Minos Dio rallied the entire Juice Discord server through a full-blown hosted max tournament, which in my eyes only produced winners. In a more isolated part of the community, a split we've hardly even glanced at saw its own great movement. The barren, structureless wasteland provides little in the way of imagination, but Temfin only had to look a few blocks below the topsoil for an idea. Even the most desolate place in the game isn't spared from the innovative minds that sought to conquer the flatland, and with Temfin slicing through an entire chunk structureless in under 10 minutes, no stones have been left unturned. Except, that leaves one last giant to tackle, the holy grail of this entire project. Temfin's trials with structuralists gave way to many creepers, but also iron shovels dropped from zombies. If given efficiency, these tools progressively breeze through clearing away sediment blocks, and at a certain point, they turn from being a mere garden tool to a giga drill. Zombies drop iron shovels holding 250 durability points, which is not a whole lot before the thing snaps in two. Diamond shovels, on the other hand, hold more than 1500 durability, more than plenty to clear a chunk. We need an enchanted one of those, but is that remotely possible starting in Superflat? Strongholds don't contain them, and we all know about villages. Wait. Obsidian from blacksmiths, nether portals, lava from blacksmiths, the nether, bastions. We've completely glanced over this structure. It's got chests with really good loot. Here's its entire loot table laid out. Let's sift through this thing real quick. Nothing so far. Still nothing. Oh, it's almost too perfect. This bad boy spawns in only one part of one bastion type with a 15% chance of spawning. You gotta connect all of that luck up to a blacksmith that has enough obsidian for a portal, but if you do, the only thing waiting for you when you return from that portal is a patch of grass and dirt that could be cleared out in seconds. With Temfin at the helm and Etherina behind the scenes seed finding, Minechunk Superflat's faithful stared at a silent Discord channel like was commonplace just a few months ago. Not long after, Temfin, likely realizing that words were of no assistance, posted this screenshot, proclaiming undeniable victory. Sub 4 minutes. She wasn't done. 7 minutes later, sub 3. She still wasn't done. Not even an hour later, she uploaded her true triumph over this category, using only the structures available to her in the flatland to clear the 768 blocks of dirt and grass, and a few extras on the sides, in under 2 minutes. This run was the first she recorded, and the seed shows how almost perfectly engineered it is for this challenge. The obsidian, the woodlight, the bastion chest with the goods, and the grand finale. It's the most robust machine ever thought up. The usual suspects got a hold of the seed and pushed it even further. Etherina pulled off a 124, and not too much later, who else but Supergamer pushed it to a mind-boggling 1 minute and 21 seconds. It's crazy to think that these are the exact same flatlands we've gotten to know so familiarly over the months of this category's existence. Around SG, Temfin, and Etherina are the same starting resources that have always been there. In a world where Mikolas hadn't taken that leap into a new dimension, or simply if people hadn't cared about the silly category in the corner where you break blocks in Superflat, this route would have sat undiscovered, unexplored, unappreciated until the end of time. Instead, it helps close the book on truly the weirdest case study for a Minecraft speedrun. It was the final puzzle piece, and much like the cleared out chunks this speedrun is all about, the giants who made this entire operation possible also cleared out. This time though, not with a sense of boredom or agony like before, but instead filled with a feeling of completion, as if they were ready to move on and conquer the other great speedrun challenges that lay ahead. The final page had been added in a story that, all told, has served its ultimate purpose, now meant to sit on display for viewing, in a state of permanent stasis, forever. Bet you didn't think we'd be back here, huh? It feels like ages ago, but this speedrun wasn't picked as the initial example for no reason, even aside from the many similarities it shares with Minecraft Superflat. No, it was picked because of something more sentimental. Walk with me. At its peak popularity, some scarily long time ago in February 2021, this quirky and blatantly unserious challenge became the gateway for many folks to participate in Minecraft speedrunning, not just as spectators, but as arbiters of the creation and curation of their own speedruns. I, along with a bunch of others, took part in that. It was on this seed where I realized that you didn't need some special qualification or discipline to change the course of speedrunning history for the game. It was open for just about anyone. Nothing much came of that realization at the time. I certainly remember dying a bunch in the desert temple and chasing around sheep that avoided grass like it was the plague, but it would be much later when I took a step back and had the chance to take it all in. These projects, whether stack of lime wool, stack of cobblestone, or really anything else, all share the exact same engine within them. They might start as word of mouth in a less than serious tone, but if the people at the center of the movement truly believe in fostering something special, then the infrastructure for a community, one of ideas, of creativity, of memories, will bubble up right around them. We might have gotten here too late to see what this category truly means, but its lineage can be traced directly through to Minecraft Superflat, to the city that sprawled from nothing, with its heroes, its innovators, its jokesters, its rule breakers, and its perfectionists, where in that wonder it puts out a hand to invite us in. If you load up a Superflat world to mine out one of its uncountable chunks, your activity is mostly one of solitude. But if you were to instead load up the world record seed, even in the seclusion of your desktop, you can simply feel the energy from the outside radiating through everything. The village, the nether portal, the bastion, and the shovel. The history each of these components bear is one of speculation, of strategy discovery, of a category that made its home in the pit of obscurity only to be hoisted up to the big stage by the most adamant group of folks imaginable. This is what we get to be a part of. These are the squares that were filled right before our eyes, and if we're so lucky, by feeling the energy of all that came before us, we'll get to fill out the rest of these squares one day, and maybe push beyond that. Because that third why, well, I'll let you fill in the blank for that one.